Hi everyone, welcome back again to Spiritual Growth Tarot, although this will be the astrology reading for the week of May 1st to May 7th. And ahead of time I'll just say happy May Day and happy Cinco de Mayo, and soon to be happy Mother's Day. So anyway, let me drop the camera down and show you these wonderful charts I have. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, so even though we're starting this, this week starts with Sunday, I want to go over Saturday's new moon solar eclipse. Just a moment. A minute. Give me a minute. And it's because it's so important. And of course it's, about 1:30 in the afternoon. Pacific time, but it's this lineup here that is really important because it includes Uranus and it also includes the North Node. Now we have to remember that the solar eclipses only happen on the new moons, and the lunar eclipses only happen on the full moons. They happen about 4 to 6 times a year, the eclipses. So the important thing to know is that this week we're going from the 1st to the 7th, but on the I think it's on the 15th. So the 15th, so May 15th to May 15th and on the 16th. So depending on, if you're Pacific time or Eastern time, it's going to be in the evening on the 15th. We're going to have the full moon lunar eclipse. So this moon that's starting, and it's going to be in Scorpio. So this is at 10 degrees. Remember, that's what we're coming off of here, into this new week. But the eclipses are so strong, we're going to feel them about a month before and up to even like 6 months after, some astrologers think. My own personal experience, it can be, I don't know, at least for me, it depends. If it's a subtle thing, if it's inner, those deep inner changes you're going through, then yeah, for sure, 6 months after. But my personal experience is more like it's 2 or 3 months, and then things get resolved if there's something that needed to be resolved. So anyway, just keep that in mind, and just know that this new moon, I'm thinking it's very powerful because I feel like it's so much of bringing in the new energy, and we have to remember, with this Taurus Scorpio axis here, because the nodes, the eclipses only happen on the nodes, right? So this Taurus Scorpio axis or axis, whatever you want to call it, it's AXIS. Being in Taurus with that North Node, here being in Taurus, all of us, all of humanity, we're all going through that need to get in touch with our self-worth and find our inner security. And you can't find your inner security without having your inner authority. And that's why this Pluto, in Capricorn, trining the North Node, and Mercury's now involved as well, but, we had gone through Pluto. And Pluto's going retrograde. It's only going to go back to 26 degrees, so it will kind of pick up, but then the node's going backwards too. So it's just not in a tight orb, but it's still there. And I feel like we've gotten through a big chunk of deep inner self-worth, and now we're really truly able to align with our our real values, which are spiritual values, which is, why we have this, aspect of the architect here, coming from the South Node, involving all of our spiritual, planets in a very spiritual sign. Well, all the planets are spiritual, but especially Neptune. and Jupiter and Venus and Mars, that's those personal planets all combined in there. This is just such an important time. So I wanted to just, touch on that for a moment before, because this is what we're still in this, basically, moving into this week. And that's why I really wanted to talk about that. So there's, with this new moon, there's that ability to really open up and liberate ourselves from any old self-worth issues. Okay? And when we do that, we open up to more pleasure. Okay, so, more positive pleasure versus the old negative pleasure of, negative pleasure is just about the life force being attached to negativity. And negativity is really just anything that negates life. So, because as children we all need to attach to something in order to survive, if our parents were moving through their lives in any amount of negativity, we're like sponges, little kids were just like sponges, and we pick it all up and it gets magnetized like into our soul substance, into our bodies. And then we spend the rest of our lives as adults trying to work through it and get rid of it, clear it out. Well, that's what the Sun in Uranus can really help us do. And now on Sunday here by 4 a.m. Pacific time, the moon has moved on the other side of Uranus. So, we're through that. Hopefully the awarenesses have come in and you feel much, my deepest prayer for everyone is that you all feel much, much more connected and solid and unflappable in your inner authority, so that you go through life much more calmly, not in as much fear, right? Because fear creates those distortions. Or fear actually just is a distortion that's coming from the divine rays within, the ability to experience positive pleasure. And with so much going on in the world, it is really challenging to stay out of fear, right? I really understand it. So again, like I said, just keep the news off as much as possible. When it comes to looking at images of war, and but still send lots of love. That's the way I handle it. Is just send the love out, and then either mute it or turn it off and don't look at it. Don't listen to it. Except for those little times you want to check in and see how things are going, which, like what, limit yourself to maybe 15 minutes a day or something at most, like maybe a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes in the evening, but just keep sending the love. So there has been some good news. I did see an article in the Washington Post this morning, and I would link it in the community section, but not everyone has a subscription. Then they just get mad at me for sending something that they can't look at. So I'll just tell you what it was. I can't remember the name of the oligarch. Something with a V. Anyway, the dude got his 220-foot yacht seized by the FBI in Mallorca, Spain. Now, that's just one part of the funny part. The rest of it is, the best part is that Biden has, and this is where, this access here, this is where I'm going with this, because it's perfect, right? Because Taurus, in North Node and Taurus, Scorpio axis is all about, Taurus is my money, Scorpio's your money. And the combination of the two can be money scandals, sex scandals. It can be, well, let's just call it, in this situation of the story I want to tell you, this true story, asset seizure, okay, by the government. So what Biden is proposing, and there's bipartisan support in this. Lindsey Graham was even involved in it. They are proposing to seize as many assets from all these Russian oligarchs as they can, and they are doing a really good job of it, and Merrick Garland has been doing a very good job of it, and so they have a lot. And what they're going to do is, so I don't know if they will sell the apartments, houses, property, cars, super yachts. I don't know if they sell them and then they, I don't know how they get the money. I'm imagining that it'll get paid back into the United States, all this funding that's going out to Ukraine. But anyway, they're going to sell those assets and give it to the Ukrainians to try and build back. They have they've created a what's it called, a reconstruction Ukraine Reconstruction Act. That's what Congress has been doing. So that was just really, really good news. I loved seeing that. And I'm waiting for it to come out in the other news sources and, see if it does. And then I'll post it into the community section so you guys can read about it. And I imagine there are videos. Oh, actually, I saw one. There was one that, well, you couldn't really see anything. You just saw them getting on the super yacht. So anyhow, let's move on. So that's a part of it here. We're going to start seeing more and more justice, and then for us personally, it's about everything I just spoke to about liberating our true spirit, and Uranus, moving towards the North Node. So already here we're within, what do we have here, like 8 degrees. So I go with a wide orb. I go with 12-degree orb between planets when it comes to conjunctions or important points, which would be the North Node. So the North Node is where we're all headed. I already talked about that. Uranus is going to shake things up. The sun and the moon, they're gonna scooch over, and but Uranus is taking its time. And the North Node is, remember, the nodes go backwards. So the North Node's going this way, Uranus is coming this way. So they're coming together, and it's within orb already. So we're going to start seeing more and more on a personal level, more and more awareness about what we really care about, and safety is a big, big issue about this. And Saturn squaring the nodes, right? Because I've been talking about that for weeks, and it's goes until oh my goodness, I'm losing it about the time. Oh yeah, November, like that week before Thanksgiving. So what? I don't know, 15th, 16th, somewhere in there. So Saturn squares the nodes, and remember the nodes are involved in these eclipses, and Saturn can be the government. And this is the awareness here. So Uranus brings in awareness, okay? And with Saturn, we're in this, why don't I do this? Here, sorry you guys. Let's bring in some toys. So here we are, that Saturn square in the North Node, South Node. But we've got this Uranus opposition here to the South Node. I love it. I absolutely love it, because this is going to help us, because now there is such a governmental, Saturn, governmental awareness, Aquarius, Uranus awareness. Uranus rules Aquarius, so we're talking a double whammy. Saturn is the old ruler of Aquarius, so we're talking a triple whammy. And this is all about the need, the awareness that we need new laws for society to control our government. And these new laws need to come into place so that January 6th insurrection we had could never happen again. So that we couldn't have an internal coup coming from our own president. So the president currently has too much power. I saw a show, it was Rachel Maddow, I think? I don't know if it was last night or maybe I was watching a couple days late. I don't know, but it had to do with, and I know that the Presidential Powers Act has been created because I remember reading about it. It's just that I don't know that anything has gone through because it would probably take, both the House and the Senate. And we still have the filibuster and all that other BS. But anyway, they're working on these. There's more that is coming in to work on these laws so that the president doesn't have so much executive power. It needs to be pulled back immensely because crazy, crazy, crazy things could happen if it stays the way it is. We have been running, it turns out, I didn't know this, but we've been running on this honor system within our government that, no one would ever be that crazy. People will always be, peaceful enough, right? Then we get this crazy person like, the Orange Menace, as Andre, the astrologer, calls him. And my good friend Danny Shea over at Bathrobe Tarot calls him, what does he call him, like the Pumpkin Patch Family or something? Pumpkinhead. He calls him Pumpkinhead. I call him Flump. But anyway, I digress. So the deal is that if we'd had stronger rules already created, stronger laws, Saturn, none of this would have happened. Or he would be locked up already. So things need to shift, and this is the awareness. And trust me, by the time Pluto gets to 6 degrees Aquarius on the USA's South Node, if something doesn't happen by then, we're going to be in a world of trouble. We really need to take advantage of this Saturn in your Aquarius transit. And when it gets into Pisces, I don't know how effective Saturn will be that way. It's going to be great for us spiritually because at least we're aware. But as far as how to, run a government, we're still learning. That's the sad thing. And this, remember, this is our Pluto, the USA's Pluto return. Now, this is not just in the USA. Again, Pluto and Capricorn is all about bringing out all of the corruption. The corruption was always there. It was just hidden. Now it's fully out. And from this, with this configuration going on here with Uranus and the nodes coming together, the North Node coming together, it's going to get, tighter and tighter. And by this summer, it's going to be explosive. I think it's just going to be very explosive because Mars is going to catch up, right? And I think we are going to see that shake up like we've never seen before. Because Saturn's still going to keep square in the nodes, and they're going to get even tighter right here with Uranus, or North Node with Uranus. Uranus will still be in opposition with the South Node. It'll get even tighter. So remember, the South Node is about the past, and Scorpio can be about the vengeance and the resentment and the, like I spoke to, I think last week or the week before, where I gave voice to the, the old slave master mentality and racist and, people who prey on others. There's going to be big, big lessons coming out for them. And Saturn square Uranus, it's out of orb right now, but we have to remember that it'll go back into orb, I think in the fall. I think it's around the middle of September, and, for another month. And so again, there's going to be some, I'm hoping that this is when some sentences come down, against the rebellion, because remember the Saturn-Uranus square was very much the January 6th rebellion. So, okay, so I think I'm done with that. Now I really want to focus more on our spiritual opportunities here. So everything's the same as far as this configuration, and the orbs aren't tight, but I'm still going to include this entire stellium to trining the South Node. And remember, the South Node is our past experience, the well of wisdom that we've been through. And everybody's had the South Node in Scorpio at some point in some lifetime. And, the nodes, they change every 18 months, 18 to 18 and a half, 19 months. They make the full rotation about every 18 to 19 years. I think that's amazing. So anyway, I digress again. The important part here is that we have all of this spiritual support. And now with Mars conjunct Neptune, we've got, besides just this like nebulous, elusive, fleeting, maybe subtle experiences of spirit, now we're going to start feeling it more and more, because Mars is going to move that energy, and there's going to be even more of that deeper connection to the past that needs to be healed, the past where we can come into our determination. Because remember, Scorpio is all about, regenerating things, the transformation that needs to occur. But also with this polarity here, we're dealing, well, in Scorpio as well, Taurus and Scorpio are so attuned to trust issues and intimacy issues. So because we've got this, within orb still with Venus, the relationships are still going through, like, can I really trust you? How can I trust you? Is it a deal breaker if I can't trust you in this one area? Can we still be in intimate relationship? And we have this, I love this here to Pluto, because remember, Pluto is just like transformative. Pluto and Scorpio are both same thing, transformation. In Capricorn, it's a transformation of our integrity or not, right? Like, for instance, we all watched, well, anybody that watched a little bit of Marjorie Taylor Greene at her hearing know that she lied. She lied. She very possibly had an earpiece in and was taking directions from someone else, like maybe Matt Gaetz or her attorneys. And, so I don't recall, I don't remember, blah, blah, blah. She lied. We'll see how that goes for her later on. But anyway, so besides the sextile to, oops, I forgot to do this, I'm sorry, to Mercury here. So we have Pluto trining Mercury, and that brings in that connection to information, the messages, are they truthful or not, which is why I thought of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then with the sextile back up here to Jupiter and Venus, it's like, ooh, things are blown up as to relationships. Can we really trust them, right? And with Mars joining in the mix and, coming this way, it's affecting everything, because you can see the degrees here are still, this is like super, super close. Venus, Jupiter could be excellent. This little transit right here, if I leave out Mars and we just focus here on these three, it could bring in very, very spiritual relationships that are very connected. Also, it could bring in people, they can be karmic from the past, but maybe in a good way, or maybe karmic from the past that was not such a good way, but is able to be healed with this stellium here, because Neptune can dissolve, Jupiter can heal, and Venus can unite. And in sensitive, beautiful Pisces, it can be, about devoting yourself to forgiving. And doesn't mean that people don't make atonement or make, maybe they don't make, or what is the word, like recompense or whatever. But and maybe you don't ever forget, but you can still forgive. It's like, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. So when it comes to personal relationships, there are opportunities for healing and forgiveness, healing the past, forgiveness, and then moving forward from a brand new, fresh approach with Mercury in Gemini. It's like, oh, hey, I didn't realize that problem that I had came from my, a past life. It came from this lifetime, brought in through my parental experience, all that. And it caused me to, through the filter of my whatever, caused me to believe certain things about relationships. So whatever you believe, you're going to attract. So it's like, why blame the other person? And if it's a terrible thing, of course you don't stay with them, but there's no reason to hold on to resentment or be stubborn, right? With Uranus here in Taurus, it can be really releasing, freeing yourself up from any stubbornness, any old patterns that want to hold on to resentment or vengeance or this false belief that you have to get even. And it can really free up karmic relationships with this whole pattern here. Now, with the moon, let's focus on the moon because that's what this day is all about here on Sunday. Well, it's not all about, it's part of it. So let's look at our aspects to the moon. Looks like we have the square to Saturn, of course, because here we go, 17 degrees, squaring up here to 24 degrees. So Saturn square the moon will have us reevaluating what we really want. Like I said before, do we feel safe? Are our needs being met in relationships? And this can be even, like a type of a relationship where there's structure that needs to be fine-tuned, and there's that challenge that could come through this, this morning. Because remember, Saturn has everything to do with control and taking responsibility and mastering something eventually, but it can delay things, it can slow things down, and especially if we're going to be emotionally stubborn, Taurus can be stubborn. We have to be careful about that. We have to be careful about getting stuck. Or it can be being careful about being pushed and rushed. Like maybe you're not ready to make a decision yet with all this other, configuration going on here. I could see that as being about making decisions. And one of the cool things here, it's kind of out of orb early, and it'll be even more so later in the day, but I do like this Mars sextile the moon, because that's going to help. That's definitely going to help. Hopefully you guys are all paying attention to dream time, because dream time can really help you with making decisions if you don't know which way to go. Or if you're needing healing, of any type, ask for it before you go to sleep. As you're going to sleep, ask for help, and you'll get it. You'll get it. You might not know how it's going to come through. I never do, but you can wake up with guidance, or it can just come through when you're not thinking too intensely. But yeah, so 17 degrees here is also within orb of this south node. So again, that's what I was saying, relationships in the past, trust issues. Maybe you're tired of drama. Maybe you've been in a relationship where there's too much drama, and now that mirror, because relationships are always mirrors, maybe that mirror with this sextile over to Venus or this whole stellium actually, is having you thinking and reevaluating what you really want to experience in relationship. How much energy, how much of your life force do you want to give to relationships that take you off your path? Because drama is just a waste of energy. Drama is coming from an alternate reality that's not even based in truth. It's coming from your past or history. It's coming from, or their history, their past, they're projecting onto you. And it's like, oh, why do we need to go there? And then it's happening over and over and over again. And at some point, you have to stop and question, like, why am I engaging in this? Like what's, and we're finding healthy boundaries, all of that. Let's see, what else? I think that's about it with this day. I mean, we do have a little bit of that's more to Uranus. I'm going to cover that. We'll cover that tomorrow in Mondays. Let's do that. So let me go ahead and set this aside. And then Monday, so Mercury, of course, Mercury's getting ready to go retrograde. We're going to have that coming up. And I'll talk about that when I get to Saturdays. I have some notes on one of these charts down here. There's a lot coming up next week. So this week might be a bit of a breather. But then again, when it comes to all those aha moments that we're going to have, it might, well, I think it could be an outer breather, but an inner worker type of a thing. But interconnecting the dots to patterns that you want to change within yourself. So everything that I've spoken to for yesterday, for Monday, is going to apply all week with these bigger transits, So everything I've already said, I'm not going to repeat with that. Chiron is still in Aries and will be for quite some time. And we're dealing with those issues of how much do I matter to myself, letting go of feeling left out, feeling rejected. Not rejecting yourself is the key. Let go of needing to come first. Let go of impulsiveness, impulsive thinking. Just initiate into a new territory, which is, beautiful. Now, there's only one little, and it's kind of transitory there, but this little semi-square here to the moon and Mercury to Chiron. And so remember, again, when we have those, the semi-squares, it's friction, right? But it's never as intense as a square. But because Saturn, is here, and the square, to the node is over here, right? Like I talked about before. But then it's also squaring to the moon and Mercury. So there's a lot. That's a lot. The moon in Gemini is trying to figure out what to do, trying to make those decisions based on what is reality, what is really happening here, right? So when it comes to a relationship, and then again, don't forget, it's squaring the south node, so it's like, okay, wait, I've experienced this in the past. I'm sitting here experiencing something again, and here I'm able to mentally and emotionally gather some new piece of information that'll help me on my way. And the way it's going to help is it's going to help you come into your authority. Look at those 3 trines to Pluto. It's going to help you come into your own authority, be the author of your life. And so what is that, what does that mean? What does that look like for you? Whatever you're working through or whatever you're working on. This can be projects. And again, the sun is, right there, conjunct Uranus, So we have this whole, period of, let's see how long, let me see when we get to Saturday. Yeah, the sun's still on the other side, but we're still, so it's all week long, because, that makes sense, it's like 1 degree a day, But then it's going to conjunct the North Node, and it's going to connect up to Mercury. So there's a lot. So, but this leads to awarenesses, self-awarenesses, okay? In Taurus, it helps us slow down, but we will be very mentally and emotionally alert with this configuration here. And then again, like I said, with this, opposition to the South Node, we're going to be pulling in details, information from the past, and we're going to be sitting with reality and saying, wait a minute, does this add up? Does this add up? Is this the right direction? It's about reading the fine print, and we're going to be moving into, Mercury retrograde next week. So we want to be very, careful about things, about commitments. But there can be some new awarenesses as to your own self-esteem, because the sun, remember, when the sun comes in, it illuminates. Well, what's it going to illuminate? Something that we need to be very, very aware of with Uranus. And Uranus liberates. Well, what is it liberating? What is waking us up about? And it's our safety, it's our money, it's our security. In Taurus, it's our faithfulness and who we can trust or not. And we're figuring all that out, right? So, and Uranus can sometimes be a little shocking. It can help us detach, though, if we need to. And it can sometimes turn things around that have been really stale and really awful. So, if you've been having a hard time, it can turn things around and help you get going in the other direction, or the other direction has changed for you because you've been doing your best and working in the light. And then again, sometimes things happen just so that we can, meet the pain that needs to be met. And then other times things happen just because it's life, and life on Earth is never going to be perfect. And do not take it personal when things aren't perfect, because it's not perfect and you don't need to be perfect. So don't judge yourself harshly if things aren't working out, okay? Just never do that. Just keep going for what you want. Keep honoring the feelings that come up when you don't get what you want, but don't beat yourself up for not creating what you want, because that's not the way to work it. Not at all. Now, the sun can bring in the awareness of our life path, our life purpose, our vocation. It helps us lead. It helps us become more and more and more in our own authority. And that's what this is all about here. This is like I said before, the part of that whole, this great reset, all these people that quit their jobs and found a better job, found a much higher paying job that had benefits. Or people quit their jobs and started their own business because they really, really had been wanting to do that for a really long time, and they finally have the courage to do it. There you are. Things are breaking through. We will have breakthroughs. And with the steadfastness of the past, all this work that we've been doing spiritually, moving towards what we really want, things are going to open up and you're going to get it. You're going to get what you want. So, but for this day, there's going to be a lot of information gathering, a lot of learning, a lot of teaching, but I'm thinking it's teaching on the spiritual levels, but teaching artistically, devoting ourselves to what we're teaching, devoting ourselves to music, art, spirituality. The only trouble I can see with this is if people are going to be, what's the word, lackadaisical? Is that the right word? About COVID. And because, like I said, I was getting a long time before with the transits and with my tarot readings that, COVID cases were going to go up. And they did. They went up after the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, after the April 12th conjunction. But they're still in there, because remember, this is the whole, Neptune and Pisces is COVID. And Jupiter blew it up. Now Jupiter's moving away from it, but it's still within orb, and we're still dealing with it. So if people are going to, just not care about the mass and they're going to be silly, there will be experiences to, to pay for that. But then eventually they'll clue in. They'll go, oh, okay, well, all right. I guess I can't trust the government to tell me what to do with my own body. Wow, what a concept. God. I'm old enough to remember the days when, you'd go see the doctor and he'd walk in the room with a cigarette. Ashtrays everywhere. And I also remember in the 70s, when I first had my kids, I remember like, wait, these doctors don't even know that your diet matters to your health. They don't have, there was no correlation whatsoever between diet and health in those days. So they're always behind. They might be on the leading edge with some things, but they're usually trying to catch up, and they're usually not. You have to get out of that allopathic medicine realm to be healthier. But, then again, when it comes to like insulin and other drugs that people need, they can be a godsend, and surgery can be a godsend. So it's all about making your own decisions for your own body and your own path in life, and that's the way to go. That's the freedom. That's the way to go. So, that's all about that Moon square Saturn and Mercury square Saturn. We're making our own decisions. That's what I wanted to say about that. Okay, then Tuesday comes along, and you can see newly. So here, whoops. Notice how Venus has been in this late degree. It's at that nth degree, the anaretic degree of Pisces, 29 degrees. Now, Tuesday, it's so somewhere in the middle of the night. I didn't get the exact because I didn't feel like it really mattered. It's in Aries. So relationships are moving forward with a little more, courageousness, I guess would be the way to say it. A little more, there's more impetus for relationship. There might not be the holding back. It might be a, one step forward and two steps back, because Aries can tend to do that, and that's okay. Just go slow. Because remember, we're developing those, trust issues. And the moon is moving away from Mercury, but it's still going to be in Mercury this, the whole day and even into tomorrow. So it's, because remember, the moon is like a 2 to 2.5 day transit through each sign. So we're still gathering. We have this sesquisquare to Pluto here in the moon, which it's a minor, very, very minor, challenging aspect. And it's like the square, but less intense, kind of like the semi-square, but less intense, or like the regular square, semi-square and the sesquisquare. They're both minor, but they're still challenging. And this, the difference between a semi-square and a semi-square this way is that you need action, to work with the friction. With this one, with the sesquisquare, the difference between this one is that you have to be careful about being stubborn, but it's transitory, because it's just the moon. I mean, if this were in someone's natal chart, like people who were born this day and they have this in their natal chart, they're going to have to be careful about being stubborn their entire life. They're going to have to work through those themes, But for us, it's just, well, unless you have a baby this day, you're going to, if that's the case, you're going to help them not be as stubborn. To be more open, especially to information, because it's like the energies don't really get along so well. Capricorn wants it done, wants to be very self-responsible, wants to be in control, and Gemini just wants to keep getting more information before it makes a decision or makes a move. But with Venus here, with this, notice this sextile here to Mercury, there's not a sextile to, let's look at Venus. Let's focus on Venus for a little bit. So Venus has this sextile to Pluto, and it's still conjunct in Jupiter, so it's still been very helpful for relationships too. So that's all to Pluto. And then, but there's just this one, make sure I don't lose it, to Mercury. Okay, so Venus sextile Mercury is Venus in Aries, sextile Mercury in Gemini. Remember, Mercury's the traditional, or the ruler of Gemini and Virgo, the natural ruler. So Mercury, just always remember, it's all about communication and the way we think and our patterns of thinking and how we learn and how we communicate. Because this is a nice, easy aspect of Venus, and Venus is newly in Aries, I'm thinking it's more about talking in relationship and opening up those channels of communication, which have to be open in order to have a healthy relationship. It's hard to have a telepathic relationship. We're not there yet. Now, we can have very psychic connections, but then you still want to talk about it, right? So there's that. And then the other nice little aspect going on, notice how we have 12 degrees here with the moon, and then we have it sextiling Chiron. So now there's that curiosity, emotional curiosity about healing. And Chiron can also have to do with teaching. Chiron's all about, it's our deepest wounding, but also our deepest gifts, and it's also the teacher and the healer. So in Aries, it's about moving forward, something brand new. And with the moon here sextiling, there's opportunities. Sextiles always create opportunities. So we have opportunities for healing and in relationships and making money and being independent. Aries is all about independence. And then sextiling the moon and Mercury, there's lots of talking about it, gathering information, talking about how we feel about things, nurturing, and the moon is also like the patterns of our behavior, but with it being in Gemini, it's much, much more curious, we're questioning things. We're thinking more freshly, more, just think like, a 4-year-old. It's like, why? But why? And you want to figure things out. And that's especially true when the South Node's in Scorpio. It's like you want to dig deeper. And the Sun is coming into, an orb with this South Node here too. Uranus is right there, but the Sun's just so close too. So the Sun and Uranus opposing the South Node is all about what do we need to, what should we have learned from the past in order to move forward. Okay. So let's see. The moon is, notice we have 12 degrees here, and Mars is at 13 degrees Pisces. So we're in a very tight orb here between the moon and Mars. So now that brings in a struggle. That brings in a little challenge there. So we could have a part of us that's very curious. If it connects to a part of us that wants to sit with our guides and get information, then it can turn into a major strength here, because there's still a connection. That's the thing, you guys. I usually don't read so much into the easy and the hard aspects, because I see them all as connections. And the oppositions can turn into breakthroughs, and the squares can turn into strengths. We can go from a challenge to a strength. So Mars in Pisces, at the very least, has us wanting to connect with spirituality and learn more about it with the moon in Gemini. And then on another level, it can be literally, because Mars can be working, action, it's active oriented, but working on our spirituality, working on our art, working on, if you're writing a book, whatever it is that you've been working on, whatever project you've been working on, there's this wanting to get it done and complete it, but you might have to let go of things needing to be perfect and just do your best, give your best. But Mercury wants to negotiate sometimes. So you might be wanting to negotiate with your guides, and that's cool, because they don't often, you might have to remind them. I have to remind mine all the time. Hey, I'm the one here on Earth in a body, and I'm the one that knows I only have so much time or so much energy in a given day, even though they're giving me all kinds of ideas, right? And Gemini especially can bring in ideas, and the Sun conjunct Uranus can bring in tons of ideas. And ahas and awarenesses, well, write them down. Make sure you write them down and keep them somewhere where you're going to look at it later. But don't think that you have to do it all in one day, because Mars can, will really bring things in, and especially with this stellium here in Pisces, and then Venus newly in Aries, because remember, Venus rules art, and Venus rules unifying things, bringing things together. It unites things, and it can kind of persuade us to go in a certain direction, and then it can also help us to compare, which way we want to go. Venus can do that. Yeah. And when it comes to relationships, it might be a little tricky sometimes, because maybe we thought we were fully in this relationship that was very loving and kind and giving, and now all of a sudden in Aries we're a little impulsive in looking on the other side of the fence, or whatever you want to call it, and you might have to be very careful. Let's see. But most of all, with Venus, we're all looking for some type of gratification on some level. Venus is about, values and what matters to us. So being very, very grateful is always helpful. And especially with this connection here to Pluto, being deeply grateful. And then with this connection here with the moon too, those new ideas. I think it's going to be a great week for connecting the dots, bringing in new ideas and those aha moments, breakthroughs, all that good stuff. Okay, so on Wednesday here, we have this in conjunct aspect from the South Node, so the past, into the moon. And that creates the need for an adjustment. So I think some bigger decisions, I think by this point a lot of information has been gathered, and you're thinking about which way to go, or how to fine-tune something and maybe go deeper. But there might be an adjustment as to your endurance, your determination. You might have to just hang in there a little longer, to make something better than it could have been if you were to just, jump forward and try to make it happen. And so this might even be like holding back on something that you wanted to say, and especially with Venus in in Aries here, you might have to be careful because remember, Aries moves. It's just like Mars. And so you're going to want to be careful with, and especially with Mars and Pisces too, be careful with words like anything that has to do with blame. Because remember, Pisces, Venus relationship, but then Pisces and Mars, because we're talking relationship with both of those. When it comes to Pisces, you have to be careful with scapegoating, gaslighting, either you doing or them doing it, or seeing it and letting it happen. Pisces does not like being left or not being. Pisces energy is very sensitive around consideration. So if you're in a relationship where you're not being where your needs, where your reality is not being considered, it won't feel good. It won't feel good at all. And you might have to, and it might be challenging, but with this square here, you might have to speak up and say something about it. Because we're in with this 10 degree, this orb, Mars and Neptune are getting really close together. So we're going to have to be careful with our words. And we're going to have to be very careful with our actions. So the way to do it always is to be very, very sensitive. Just be sensitive to the others. Whomever you're in connection with. Be sensitive to what's going on with them. Listen, slow down, take a lot of deep breaths, stay very grounded, and you'll get through anything. And then we also have this connection here to Saturn. Exact, right? So with this Saturn trining the moon, this energy gets along really, really well. So again, communication, and with Aquarian energy, this can be some breakthrough, some new way of doing something can come together within group consciousness, within your group, within your friendships. Aquarian energy is all about original ideas, and the only trouble you can get into is if you're trying to, like if there's some lack of tolerance. Aquarian, it's not good to have any intolerance going on with Aquarian energy. That can be the downside of it, where it's like kind of cut off from the heart. But this is where there's a opportunity here to speak up if need be, and then from there that adjustment can happen. Like maybe you thought you had all the information you needed from the past, but now there's, with this connection to Saturn, it's like, wait, what are the actual rules here? Or what do you guys have in mind? Or it could just be with a friend. It could also be just with a goal, something you've been working on, where it's like, oh, wait a minute. If I do it this way, I could run into a problem. And I've done that in the past, so I'm going to slow down. Because this is like electrified here, right? And especially with the sun, remember all week with the sun conjunct Uranus, we've got that like trying to make sure, right? We want to liberate ourselves from the past, okay? But we don't want to make any mistakes like we did in the past as well. So there's do-over energy here. And then that's especially true with Neptune. So 24 degrees here and an exact square to Neptune, right? To the moon. So we want to make sure things are clear, nothing nebulous here. Now, this whole configuration, though, can be excellent for any artistic projects and spiritual projects. But when it comes to putting things into place, there may be some adjustments on this day. Let's see. Yeah, Venus is still sextiling. This is really nice here. The Venus to Mercury is still going on here. So everything that I said yesterday for Tuesdays applies on Wednesday there. Okay. Yeah, everything else I think we've been speaking to. Pluto, Mercury, we'll talk about that. Let's do that. So again, gathering information to really stand in your authority and move forward on your life path right here. Okay. Oh, we still have that opposition going on. Everything here is the same. Saturn square, all that is the same. So I'm just going to focus in here on the moon is newly into Cancer. And we've got that sesquisquare to the south node. So again, you know, it's like try not to be stubborn about holding on to something from the past. The Cancer moon can especially be about the past. And there's, so 5 degrees here, 3 degrees Aries. So we've got a firm square there between Venus and the moon. So, boy, do I know this one. Aries wants to go forward. The moon wants to say stay. Cancer wants to stay safe, and the moon wants to stay safe, and it has its, because we've got a natural rulership here. The moon rules Cancer. And you can tend to go side to side in fear and hold on to just trying to stay safe. But thank goodness for Aries energy, and it's both cardinal, you know, so we've got movement either way. Movement forward or movement side to side, you're not going to get anywhere. So you're going to have to make that adjustment to just let go. Just let go. Don't stubbornly hold on to staying safe. And know that if you're trying to do that, you're just coming from fear. As long as you're communicating in your authority in kindness, you're going to be fine. But we also have this little semi-square here to the north node and the moon. That's a really, tight orb. The semi-squares and the sesquisquares, we only go with a tight orb, like 0 to 3 degrees, sometimes only 2 to 3 degrees tops, 0 to 3. But this is going to take action. You're going to be like feeling crappy about yourself at the end of the day if you don't take some action to get going where the direction you want to go. So let yourself flounder around, let yourself make mistakes. As long as you don't hurt yourself or someone else, you're doing great. But just move forward. And if you have to go forward, then one step back, and then side to side, and then forward again, and then back and forth. This can be one of those weird days where you have like 9 projects going on around the house, and you start one, and then you work on a little on another, and then another, and another, and by the end of the day, you have it all done. But it can be a little frustrating. So sometimes it helps to go like 1 foot in front of the other, but it can also be one of those days where you're trying to finish something and you can't because something else comes in and distracts you. It's like having kids, right? You think you're going to get this done, but then something comes up and you're having to go pick one up and take the other one somewhere else. Something else in relationship could disrupt what you want to, what you want to grow, what you want to nurture, what you want to, just what you want to grow is what I keep hearing. So be patient with yourself and others on Thursday, May 5th. Oh yeah, it's Cinco de Mayo. Maybe somebody says, hey, there's this party, let's go. And you're like, but I wanted to finish this thing. I was planting, I was doing, let's go. You guys have to let me know how it was for you. So anyway, Friday. The moon's still in Cancer. All the other aspects are still the same. The sun is on the other side of Uranus at this point, but it's still close right there, and now it's moving even closer to the North Node, so there's more of that emphasis of like, dang, I just better be on my path, or I'm going to be antsy, because Uranus can bring in antsy energy. And Taurus, ruled by Venus, can be, my being wants me to go in a certain direction. And if your humanity is holding you back, you're going to have inner problems. And that's especially true when the moon is squaring Chiron, because Chiron has its agenda to healing deeply. And then also this little semi-square here it only goes to Mercury. There's going to be action that needs to be taken in order to, so ideas that have come through, the action is going to need to be taken in order to move forward. Otherwise, you're not going to feel good about it. You're not going to feel good with yourself. You won't be right with yourself. And that's especially true with this sextile to the moon and these new awarenesses, right? And then connecting with the past and that deep transformation. Here's an aspect of the architect here, right? So this is the lever that can open up a whole new reality if you can get out of fear, if you can get out of the false need to be so darn safe all the time with this energy here, right? And just let yourself be free. Say what you need to say, work on the projects you need to work on, just be kind to yourself and others, and you can't do wrong when you're working in that, from that perspective, or with those actions. Then we have a little semi-square here to, it's Jupiter and the North Node. So again, adjustment, actions that need to happen in order to expand your spiritual path. Okay? So, yeah, and then my goodness, this trine to Mars and Neptune, and then back over here to the South Node, we have a grand water trine. Look at that. It's not exact first thing in the morning, but it will become throughout at some point during the day, because we're the moon to Mars is exact, but the moon to Neptune. So we're talking major spiritual connections here and actions to lead you on your spiritual path. And what you decided, what you incarnated for, what your higher self decision brought you here to be here at this time and have this experience. And there's an emotional connection. There's a deep feeling connection to getting it done, to at least moving in a certain direction. And it'll be different for each one of us, because we're all so unique. And Pluto's there, hanging out with that trine to the North Node and Mercury to help us get those messages and keep moving forward. So, okay. So now, here's the big day, Saturday, I wanted to talk about. So I moved forward. Instead of doing it 4 p.m. or 4 a.m., I got to the exact time when actually I didn't. What did I do? I wanted to get to when Jupiter moves into Aries. Hold on, let me get my phone over here. Let's see. I need to go ahead. Let's see. All right, wait a minute. Let me change it to hours here. Come on. Oh, that's right. It doesn't happen until the 10th. Oh, that's right. Hold on. Is it the 10th? Pretty sure it's the 10th. 57, 29, 58. Come on. Oh, come on. There we go. May 10th if you can see that right there. So next Tuesday, May 10th at 4:49 p.m. Pacific brings in Jupiter in, that's when Jupiter moves into Aries. See how it's at 29 degrees and we're at the 7th? On the 10th, Jupiter brings in, oh, I wrote it down here. Oh my God. I crack myself up. Right there. Next week, Jupiter moves into Aries Tuesday, May 10th. But at the same time, Mercury in retrograde, Mercury's going to go retrograde. It's at 4 degrees at 4:48. So make a note of this. I won't go into it today, but just to know what's coming up for next week is a good thing. There's going to be a moving forward, but when it comes to artistic and spiritual projects that you've been maybe gestating, by next week, there's going to be action if you haven't taken it already. If you're starting it now, throughout this whole week, it'll be even better for you next week. Because the problem, well, it's not really a problem. It's just that Jupiter's in Aries and it wants to go forward. And Jupiter's like, bam, expansion. And Aries is like, go, because it's ruled by Mars. So it's kind of like putting Mars and Jupiter together in Aries, and that's going to happen in the future too, because it's moving that way. But the deal is, Mercury's going to go retrograde in Gemini on the 10th, and we're going to need to be reviewing things and looking at those details. And if you have to sign a contract, go ahead and do it, but you better read the fine print. Well, you should read the fine print anyway, right? So when it comes to Gemini, we're talking, all things to do with communication and gathering that information that you need in order to move forward. And you're going to want to move forward. So do the homework this week so that next week will be easier. That's the main thing I wanted to say. And then especially because next week we're going to have the full moon lunar eclipse. The full moon lunar eclipse always connects with one of the nodes. This time it's going to be the south node. So again, it's that releasing energy, something of the past. But, when you release something, you open up. That's what the, that aspect of the architect that I was talking about. So here from the south node, let's look at that for a second. So this right here, over to, so 22, and then over to right here, but I have to include Mars because it's a stellium, even though they haven't drawn 3 lines. But when you have a stellium like that, you feel it all together. So, I'm going to override a mathematical program here and just tell you, this is how it is. So we've got this sextile here between this stellium. Okay, even though there's not the 3 lines, we've got the 2 and the 2, but still, again, I have to override the program and tell you that we've got this lever law here. So this breakthrough into fundamental abundance that you really, really want to experience, and your spiritual connection, and then also bringing in the gifts from the past, which by the time we get to that lunar eclipse next week, so it's 5:15, oops, I don't know if you can see that, May 15th, 9:14 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and May 16th, 12:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it's going to be at 25 degrees. It's a full moon. It's, we'll be able to see it. It's a full moon total lunar eclipse at 25 degrees Scorpio. So it's going to be, see how the moon's Leo here, but by the 15th, it's going to be up here at 25. Okay, so the eclipses create change. Just to remember, eclipses create change. well, maybe I'll just leave it like this up here, so if you want to see that, because there's nothing really to see up here. Eclipses create change. They can bring in new beginnings and endings if needed, but then, an ending just brings in a new beginning, so there's no reason to, worry about it. It's life, just trust. Please trust me on this. Life is always guiding you, whether or not it takes pain to get there, doesn't matter. It's always guiding you to more love and more positive pleasure, because that's the way it's set up. Now, of course, we don't see that all over the world, but that's because there are so many people that they either don't believe in it, they're pessimistic, they get hopeless, they give up, they don't believe that love is all that is, and that the basis of the way the universe is organized is from love. Instead, they get caught up in all the distortions that humans have created. It's not the universe, it's not God, it's not divine consciousness that's created the distortions. How could how could God let this happen, kind of thing? It's us that did it. It's humans that mess everything up, and we're the only ones that can fix it. We can get lots of support from our guides, and the loving support of the universe is always there. The love is always there, but we have to open to it and let it come through us, and then we carry the torch of love, throughout the universe by just standing in it and making loving choices. So, the moon in Leo is truly supported by the stellium up here in Pisces, right here with this trine. And this is open-hearted, generous love, the choice for love. And yes, it's in opposition to Pluto, and it will be going forward throughout the day. So there's an opportunity for a big breakthrough. If you, like I said before, stand in your love, operate from love, lead with love, and do that. If you can do that, the more you can do that, the more you will be within the integrity of your spirit, and your soul will be right in alignment there with your spirit as well. So yeah, it can be challenging, but just do it anyway. There's no reason not to love. There's actually no good reason to hate, right? Hate just comes from fear. Well, fear and hate are kind of, I think hate is probably at the bottom line. I think hate is the inverse distortion of love. And then we have fear on top of the hate because we're afraid to be seen in our hate because we judge it as so bad. Well, how about just say, oh, yeah, I really do hate that, but I also love this. And wherever you can go to your love, you can send love to that hate and turn it around. And know that all the hate is temporary. It's temporary. So let's see, is there anything else? Let's see. I think I've discussed this. We've discussed Pluto too. Yeah, we've discussed this. The moon in Leo is the, and there's that opposition to even before. So early in the morning, the opposition to Pluto's there. So again, it feels to me with Mercury here, even though there's no aspect, the aspect to Mercury is it's right here, and then up to it's still the whole stellium, even though the lines aren't there. Right here, yeah. Well, there's that really tight orb to Venus. But I did talk about that already, didn't I? Yeah. So again, that gathering information. Okay, so now the cool thing here, so everything I spoke to about, gathering information and relationships and moving towards what you want, the abundance that you want, all of that is still in effect. But now, with the moon in courageous Leo, there's really some movement because, we've got the trine here from Venus and the moon. That's fantastic. Yeah, because the moon in Leo can really help with, you can nurture, the moon can nurture something, and that something can be any creative form of your self-expression. It can be anything that brings in a lot of fun, that's playfulness, or, like playful, childlike, like the way kids play, and they create. They create from their feelings. They create from the feelings that are floating through that they have no attachment to, usually, and unless they're in their wounding. They don't have any attachment to, like, letting it just flow through them. You give a kid a box of crayons and paints and give them all the art supplies and watch them go nuts. Just imagine doing that again. But with whatever it is, if you're writing a book or building a business or designing a website or working with someone to design it for you, whatever your creative project is, like, just let yourself go for it, because we've got a lot of courage here. Venus in Aries is tons of courage, and the moon in Leo is tons of courage again, right? And having that self-confidence. So I think this is a really good aspect here for relationships, and I think it's a really good aspect for creating a breakthrough that just helps you stand in your sense of self. If you're familiar with the tarot, think of the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands and the King of Wands, right? Be in your leadership. Be in your self-confidence and just go for it. So I think that's it. I think we're done with this week. And like I'm saying, or like I was saying, do your best. It can seem like it's a week to kind of kick back, but what I'm wanting is for you to work on whatever it is you're trying to create immensely this week without getting yourself out of balance, though. Because next week things are going to be intense, and we're going to have Mercury retrograde. The eclipse and Mercury retrograde all in the same week, right? So, yeah. We're going to be dealing with things next week, whether we like it or not. But now they might be really, really good, but it's still going to be a lot to handle, because there can be breakthroughs of getting the things that you've wanted, but now you have to handle them. Have to deal with it. So, okay. Well, that's it. I'm going to sign off and send you big hugs. Bye, guys.